Alex Morgan leaned closer to the view screen, his eyes narrowed as he studied the unusual energy readings. The soft blue glow of the display cast shadows across his tired face. 3 days of monitoring this empty sector of space, and finally something interesting had appeared. "Captain, you need to see this," Alex called over his shoulder. Captain Peter Sullivan drifted across the bridge of the Starseeker, pushing off against handrails in the ship's minimal gravity. "What have you found, Dr. Morgan?" "Energy signatures. Unlike anything in our database, they're coming from that region." Alex pointed to a cluster of faint dots on the screen. Sullivan nodded to his navigation officer. "Take us closer, but maintain safe distance protocols." As the Starseeker changed course, the bridge crew fell silent. Humanity had been exploring deep space for nearly 50 years, but first contacts were still rare enough to create a mix of excitement and caution. The ship's engines hummed quietly as they approached the source of the strange readings. "My God," whispered Olivia Clark, the communication specialist. She stood up from her station and walked toward the main viewport. "It's enormous." Floating against the backdrop of distant stars was a vessel unlike any they had encountered before. It stretched, at least 3 miles from end to end, its dark hull covered with strange patterns that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. No running lights or visible propulsion systems could be seen. "Scan it," ordered Sullivan. "Any life signs?" The science officer, Ben Hayes, ran his hands over the controls. "The hull is making readings difficult, but yes. Thousands of them, weak but stable. Almost like they're in some kind of suspended animation." Alex could feel his heart racing. This wasn't just a ship, it was a colony vessel, perhaps even an ark. "Any response to standard greeting protocols?" Olivia returned to her station. "Nothing on any frequency, but there's something else. A very faint signal repeating at regular intervals. It doesn't match any known communication pattern." Sullivan stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Could be an automated distress call. How long has it been drifting?" "Based on the dust patterns and micro impacts on the hull," Ben said, "I'd estimate at least 30 years. The captain made his decision quickly. "Prepare a boarding party. Standard first contact protocols. Dr. Morgan, you'll lead the science team. Lieutenant Clark, you're with them. We'll need your skills if we make contact. Lieutenant Donovan, assemble a security detail." Alex felt a flutter of nerves as he grabbed his field kit. This was what he had trained for all his life. Actual contact with an unknown species. The ship's airlock hissed as the boarding shuttle prepared for departure. The journey to the alien vessel took only minutes. Up close, the hull was even more unusual, a material that seemed to shift slightly when viewed directly. The boarding party located what appeared to be an entry point, a seam in the otherwise smooth surface. "The atmosphere inside is breathable," Ben announced after scanning the interior. "Oxygen-nitrogen mix, slightly higher carbon dioxide than we're used to, but within safe parameters." Lisa Donovan, the security chief, stepped forward with her team. "We go in first. Stay behind us until we secure the immediate area." The door opened with surprising ease, as if welcoming them inside. The interior was dimly lit by strips of bioluminescent material along the walls. The corridors were wide and tall, clearly designed for beings larger than humans. Alex felt a strange tingling sensation as they moved deeper into the ship. His tablet flickered momentarily before stabilizing. "Communications experiencing interference," Olivia noted, adjusting her equipment. "Source unknown." They passed through several chambers before reaching what appeared to be the ship's central hub. The room was vast, with thousands of transparent pods arranged in concentric circles. Each pod contained a single occupant, tall, slender beings, with iridescent skin that seemed to pulse with faint internal light. "They're alive," Alex whispered, approaching the nearest pod, "in some form of stasis." He placed his hand on the smooth surface of the container. The moment he touched it, the pod emitted a soft chime, and the liquid inside began to drain. "Morgan, step back," Donovan called, but it was too late. The pod opened with a gentle hiss. The being inside stirred, its eyes, 4 of them positioned in a diamond pattern, slowly opening. It was nearly 7 feet tall, with long, delicate limbs and skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Alex stood his ground, though his heart pounded in his chest. "Hello," he said, knowing the word was meaningless to the alien but hoping his tone would convey peaceful intentions. The being tilted its head, studying him with obvious intelligence. It made a series of clicking sounds followed by melodic tones. Olivia stepped forward, her translator device recording everything. "I'll need more samples to begin building a language matrix." As if understanding her purpose, the alien pointed to itself and made a sound. Novali. Within hours, more pods had awakened. The Novali, as they called themselves, seemed eager to communicate. Olivia worked tirelessly with her translation algorithms, and by the time they returned to the Starseeker with 3 Novali representatives, basic communication was possible. In the ship's conference room, Captain Sullivan sat across from the Novali. The aliens moved with fluid grace, but Alex noticed something strange. Whenever they came near electronic equipment, systems would momentarily flicker or lose power. "They are the last," Olivia translated as one of the Novali spoke. "Last of their kind. Home. Destroyed. Long journey. Many places. Rejected." "Rejected?" Sullivan asked. "Why?" The Novali's skin darkened to a deep blue. "We cause fear. Our nature disrupts. Not intentional. Cannot change." Alex realized what was happening. "Captain, I think they naturally absorb electromagnetic fields. That's why our equipment keeps malfunctioning around them." The lead Novali nodded vigorously. "Yes, how we live, how we are. 17 civilizations. Turn away, say we destroy. We do not destroy. We only exist." Sullivan looked troubled. "And now?" "Die soon. Ship failing. Last hope." The captain stood up and walked to the viewport. Gazing out at the massive refugee vessel, he turned back to face the aliens. "Our planet has a long history of taking in those with nowhere else to go," he said. "I can't make promises about what will happen when we return to Earth, but I can promise you this. We won't abandon you without trying to help." As soon as the words left Sullivan's mouth, the ship's communication system crackled to life. A stern voice filled the room. "Starseeker, this is Galactic Council enforcement. We have detected your contact with the prohibited species, designated Novali. You are ordered to cease all interaction immediately. These beings are classified as technological parasites and represent a severe threat to all advanced civilizations." Sullivan's jaw tightened. He looked at the Novali, whose bodies had paled to an almost translucent white. "Fear," Alex guessed. "This is Captain Peter Sullivan of Earth Vessel Starseeker," he responded. "We are conducting humanitarian assessment of refugees. By what authority do you issue such orders?" "By the unanimous agreement of the Galactic Council, to which your species is a probationary member. The Novali are not refugees. They are a biological hazard. Abandon them now or face consequences." Sullivan looked at the frightened aliens, then at his crew. His decision was already made. "Prepare for return to Earth Orbital Station," he told his crew, "and inform the Novali that we're bringing them with us." The orbital station horizon hung like a silver wheel against Earth's blue backdrop. Inside the station's science wing, Nancy Wright carefully adjusted her protective gloves. For 2 weeks since the Starseeker's return, she had led the team studying the Novali refugees. The work was challenging. Every piece of equipment had to be specially shielded just to function in their presence. "How is the new subject doing?" Nancy asked as she entered the observation room. Through the glass, 3 Novali moved about in a specially designed living area. Her assistant, Ryan Cooper, handed her a tablet. "Their vital signs are stabilizing. The food substitutes are working better than we expected, but the electromagnetic disruption is getting stronger as they recover. Their strength," Nancy nodded, reviewing the data. When Captain Sullivan had first brought the Novali to Horizon, many had feared the worst. Electronic systems throughout the station had faltered. Emergency protocols were activated. For the first 48 hours, it seemed the critics might be right. Perhaps the Novali truly were too dangerous to harbor. But Nancy refused to give up. Her team isolated a section of the station, installing powerful shielding around the refugee quarters. It wasn't perfect, but it allowed both humans and Novali to coexist, if not comfortably. Dr. Wright, a voice called from the doorway. Sam Peterson, Earth's junior diplomatic officer to the Galactic Council, looked tired. His normally neat uniform was wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. The council representatives have arrived. They're demanding to inspect the refugees. Nancy sighed. They've given us almost no time to understand the Novali biology. We've barely established basic communication protocols. Sam's expression was grim. They don't want us to understand the Novali. They want us to get rid of them. In the station's main conference room, the scene was tense. 3 council representatives sat across from Earth officials. The Vela representative, tall and thin with pale blue skin, spoke first. "We are disappointed in humanity's reckless actions," the alien said. Its voice was translated by a small device at its throat. "The Novali are not simply refugees. They are a threat to all technological civilizations." President Kate Harrison, joining via secure video link from Earth, responded calmly. "We understand your concerns, Ambassador, but Earth has a long history of offering sanctuary to those in need. We will not turn away an entire species without fully understanding the situation." The Taurian representative, bulky with thick, leathery skin, slammed a 4-fingered hand on the table. "There is nothing to understand. We have experienced their kind before. 17 worlds turned them away for good reason. Their presence causes catastrophic technological failures." Sam Peterson cleared his throat. "Perhaps if you shared your data about previous Novali encounters, we could better address these concerns. So far, you've only given us warnings, not evidence." The third representative from the Meridian Collective pushed forward a holographic projector. Images appeared above the table, planets with darkened cities, massive ships drifting powerless in space. "These are records from the Altair system 50 years ago," the Meridian explained. "They accepted a small group of Novali refugees. Within months, planetary power grids failed. Hospitals lost life support. Thousands died." Nancy studied the images carefully. Something didn't add up. Were the Novali ever given a chance to explain? To help find solutions? Explain? The Vela seemed almost amused. "They are biological EMPs. Their very existence disrupts our way of life. There is no solution except isolation." President Harrison spoke again. "We have already found ways to contain their electromagnetic effects within limited areas of our station. Dr. Wright's team believes containment technology could be developed further." The Taurian stood up, towering over the human delegates. "Enough. The Council's position is clear. Earth must surrender the Novali within 7 standard days or face sanctions. Your trade routes will be blocked. Your colonies isolated. Is harboring these parasites worth such cost?" After the council representatives left, Sam Peterson stared out the viewport at Earth below. Nancy joined him, her face reflecting in the thick glass. "I don't understand," Sam said quietly. "The council has always promoted diversity and cooperation. Why such hatred for one species?" Nancy shook her head. "Fear, maybe. Or something deeper. We don't yet know." She turned to face him. "My team has made progress. The Novali aren't doing this intentionally. It's how their bodies process energy. They absorb ambient radiation and electrical fields as part of their metabolism. Can anything be done? Yes. We're developing containment suits that could allow them to move among us without disrupting technology. It's like creating a reverse Faraday cage, keeping their emissions in rather than keeping external signals out." Sam looked thoughtful. "If we could prove the Novali can exist safely among technological societies, the Council would have no legitimate reason to demand their removal." "We need more time," Nancy said, "which is exactly what we don't have." Later that evening, President A. Harrison addressed the people of Earth. Billions watched as her image was broadcast around the world and to off-world colonies. "Fellow citizens of Earth and her territories, I speak to you today about a matter of profound importance. 2 weeks ago, the exploratory vessel Starseeker encountered a refugee ship containing the last survivors of a species known as the Novali. Shigai paused, her expression solemn. These beings have been rejected by every civilization they have encountered, due to a biological trait that interferes with electronic systems. The Galactic Council has demanded we turn them away as well. They have threatened sanctions that would cause significant hardship for many Earth citizens. Images of the Novali appeared on screens worldwide. Their tall, elegant forms and shimmering skin created a striking impression. Yet throughout our history, humanity has faced moments where we must choose between what is easy and what is right. The Novali did not choose their biology, just as none of us chose ours. They seek only survival and a place to call home. President Harrison looked directly into the camera. I have informed the Galactic Council that Earth will not abandon those in need without exhausting every possible solution first. Our scientists are already developing technologies that may allow peaceful coexistence. We will need time, patience, and unity. The response was immediate. Protests erupted in some cities, with signs demanding Earth first and protect our technology. But in research centers and universities, volunteers flooded in, offering to help with the containment technology project. In her lab on Horizon, Nancy watched the president's speech with her team. When it ended, she stood up. Well, you heard her. We have a world to convince and not much time to do it. Let's get back to work. Meanwhile, in a secure section of the station, the Novali gathered around their own viewing screen. Though they couldn't understand all the words, they recognized the images of themselves and the determined expression on the human president's face. For the first time in decades, the Novali felt something they had almost forgotten: hope. Frank Winters had not slept in 36 hours. His lab on the lower level of Horizon Station was crowded with equipment, empty coffee cups, and dozens of failed prototypes. As Earth's leading engineer in electromagnetic shielding, he had been called to join Nancy Wright's team 3 days ago. The deadline from the Galactic Council was approaching fast. Try it now, Frank said, handing a newly modified suit to Nancy. It looked like a thin silver bodysuit with a web of delicate circuits running through the fabric. Nancy carried the suit into the testing chamber where a Novali volunteer waited. The alien's name was Terrell, one of the first to learn human language. His skin shimmered with purple and blue patterns as he examined the suit with his 4 eyes. This will stop the energy? Terrell asked in halting English. That's what we hope, Nancy explained as she helped him into the suit. The material should contain your natural electromagnetic field while still allowing you to absorb the energy you need to live. Frank watched from behind the glass partition. On a table next to Terrell, they had placed several sensitive electronic devices, a tablet, a medical scanner, and a communications unit. Previous tests had shown these would normally fail within seconds of Novali proximity. Terrell, fully dressed in the containment suit, took a step toward the devices, then another. The electronics continued to function. The readings are stable, Ryan Cooper announced, checking the monitors. No disruption detected. The team held their breath as Terrell reached out and touched the tablet. The screen flickered briefly, then stabilized. It's working, Nancy whispered, a smile spreading across her face. Frank allowed himself a moment of relief, but he knew they weren't finished yet. That's just one suit, and the shielding is still not perfect. We need to make it lighter, more comfortable, and mass-produce enough for all the refugees. Nancy nodded. But this proves it's possible. The Novali can exist among us without disrupting our technology. As the team celebrated this small victory, Sam Peterson entered the lab. His expression immediately told them something was wrong. The B Council representatives learned about our breakthrough, he said grimly. They've moved up their deadline. We now have only 24 hours to surrender the Novali. What? Why? Frank asked. This proves the Novali aren't a threat. Sam shook his head. I don't think they care about that. Something else is driving their hatred. He lowered his voice. And there's more. Security detected unusual activity in 3 different sections of the station. We think there might be saboteurs on board. Nancy glanced worriedly at Terrell, still in the testing chamber. Saboteurs? From where? Unknown. But they're targeting your research facilities specifically. Frank began quickly gathering data drives. We need to secure our research and move the prototypes to a safer location. Security Chief Lisa Donovan arrived with a team of officers. We'll escort you to the secure zone in Section 7. Dr. Winters, we'll need all your research materials packed within the hour. As they prepared to relocate, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. Breach in Section 4. A computerized voice announced. Unknown contaminant detected. All personnel evacuate immediately. Section 4 was where most of the Navali refugees were housed. It's starting, Sam said. They're trying to force our hand by creating an incident. Lisa's communicator beeped. Donovan here. She listened, her face growing pale. Understood, we're on our way. She turned to the others. 3 intruders have been spotted near the Navali quarters. They've released some kind of gas into the ventilation system. The Navali, Nancy exclaimed. We need to get them out. The team rushed toward Section 4, donning emergency breather masks as they ran. When they arrived, the scene was chaotic. The gas, a sickly yellow color, filled the corridors. Through the haze, they could see station security engaged in a firefight, with shadowy figures at the far end of the hall. The residential chambers are this way, Nancy pointed, leading Frank and Sam toward a side passage. Inside the Navali quarters, several aliens lay on the floor, their normally luminescent skin dull and lifeless. Others huddled in corners, clearly suffering. The gas affects them worse than us, Nancy realized, kneeling beside one fallen Navali. Frank helped her lift the alien. We need to get them to the medical bay. As they struggled to evacuate the weakened Navali, one of the saboteurs burst into the room, weapon raised. The attacker wore a breathing apparatus and the insignia of the Meridian Collective. Step away. From them, the intruder ordered, aiming at the humans. This ends now. Sam raised his hands. This is a diplomatic outrage, an attack on a peaceful station. Peaceful? The intruder laughed. You harbor these parasites who destroyed countless worlds. You were warned. Before anyone could react, 3 Navali suddenly charged forward. Despite their weakened state, they rushed the attacker. The saboteur fired, hitting one Navali who fell but continued crawling forward. The other 2 reached the attacker, their bodies glowing intensely as they grabbed the weapon. The saboteur's equipment sparked and failed, including their breathing apparatus. As they gasped in the toxic air they had released, station security arrived and took the intruder into custody. 2 more Navali had collapsed in the effort. Nancy rushed to their side. They sacrificed themselves, she said in disbelief, to save us. In the aftermath, medical teams worked desperately to treat the affected Navali. 5 had died from the gas, including 2 who had helped stop the saboteur. The entire station was in lockdown as security teams captured the remaining intruders. Frank sat in the medical bay, watching doctors treat Terriel, who had been among those injured. The containment suit had protected him somewhat from the gas, saving his life. Why would they do that? Frank asked Nancy, who sat beside him. Risk their lives for us when we've barely helped them? Because they know we're their last hope, she replied softly. On the main bridge of Horizon Station, Captain Reyes, the station commander, was in emergency communication with Earth government. President Harrison's face looked grim on the screen. The attack was coordinated, Reyes reported. We've identified operatives from 3 different council species. This wasn't a rogue action, it was sanctioned. The council will deny involvement, Harrison said. But this changes everything. They've attacked a peaceful Earth facility, an act of war. What are your orders, Madam President? Harrison's expression hardened. Double the security around the Navali. Accelerate Dr. Winter's containment suit program, and inform the council that their deadline is rejected. Earth does not respond to terrorism. As the call ended, Sam Peterson approached Frank and Nancy in the corridor outside the medical bay. The president has made her decision, he told them. We're standing our ground, but we need those suits ready as soon as possible. It's our only chance to prove the Novali can coexist with technological societies. Frank nodded with determination. I've already sent the prototype designs to manufacturing facilities on Earth, but I have an idea to improve them further. He looked through the window at Terrell, who was beginning to recover. The way the Novali charged that attacker, their bodies glowed brighter than I've ever seen. They can control their energy output to some degree. What are you thinking? Nancy asked. I'm thinking we've been approaching this all wrong. Instead of just containing their energy, we should be harnessing it, working with their biology, not against it. For the first time in days, a spark of hope appeared in Sam's tired eyes. How fast can you make it happen? Frank looked at his watch. Give me 48 hours. Eric Martinez rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the computer screen. For the past week, he had been studying the data recovered from the Novali refugee ship. As one of Horizon Station's top computer specialists, he had been tasked with breaking through the encryption on the ship's memory banks. Still at it? Nancy Wright asked, entering the lab with 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Eric. Thanks, he said, taking a grateful sip. I've almost got it. Their encryption is complex, but it follows patterns similar to mathematical sequences we use in music theory of all things. Nancy pulled up a chair beside him. Any idea what we'll find? Historical records, I hope. Something to explain why the Galactic Council hates the Novali so much. Eric typed a final sequence of commands. The screen flickered, then filled with strange symbols. There, I'm in. The door slid open and Terrell entered, wearing one of Frank Winter's improved containment suits. The new design was sleeker than the prototype, with glowing blue lines tracing the circuits that controlled the Novali's electromagnetic field. You wanted to see me? Terrell asked. His English had improved dramatically over the past weeks. Eric nodded. I've accessed your ship's records, but I can't read the language. Could you help translate? Terrell moved closer to the screen, his 4 eyes widening. These are the ancient records, the history of our people. He pointed to symbols at the top of the screen. This says, the creation and abandonment. For hours, Eric and Nancy listened as Terrell translated the records. The story that emerged was shocking. The Novali had not evolved naturally. They had been created as living weapons during a galactic war that ended thousands of years ago. Our makers designed us to disrupt enemy technology without destroying infrastructure, Terrell explained, his voice heavy with emotion. When ships or cities were disabled, they could be captured intact. Nancy shook her head in disbelief. You were engineered as biological EMP weapons. Yes, but when the war ended, our makers abandoned us, left us on a remote world to die out. Terrell's skin darkened to a deep blue. Sadness, the humans had learned. But we survived, built our own civilization in isolation, developed our own culture, art, music. For centuries, we lived peacefully until our star began to destabilize. Eric scrolled through more records. And that's when you had to leave, to find a new home. We thought other species would help us, Terrell said. We did not know our makers, had spread lies about us throughout the galaxy. Called us dangerous parasites, technological predators. Easier than admitting they created a living weapon and then abandoned it. Eric exchanged a glance with Nancy. Does the Council know this? History? Some must, Terrell replied. The oldest species, the Vela, the Meridians, they fought in that ancient war. They know what we are, what we were made for. But hatred is easier than truth. Eric downloaded the translated records. Captain Sullivan needs to see this. So does President Harrison. Within hours, an emergency meeting was convened on the station. Captain Peter Sullivan, who had first discovered the Novali, listened intently as Eric presented the evidence. Sam Peterson, the diplomatic officer, looked increasingly troubled. This changes everything, Sullivan said when the presentation ended. The Novali were victims, not aggressors, Sam nodded. And some council members have been perpetuating a lie for thousands of years. No wonder they were so desperate to get rid of the Novali. Their presence threatens to expose the truth. We need to make this public, Eric urged. Show everyone the real history. Sullivan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. The council won't like it. They've built thousands of years of policy on this lie. All the more reason to expose it, Nancy argued. We can't let them continue to persecute an entire species based on ancient propaganda. While they discussed strategy, Frank Winters burst into the room, excitement clear on his face. The new containment suits are working perfectly, he announced. Better than I'd hoped. We've discovered something remarkable. Everyone turned to look at him. Frank pulled up data on the main display. The Navali don't just absorb electromagnetic energy. They can redirect it. The new suits allow them to channel this ability. Look at this. He played a video showing a Navali wearing the improved suit touching a dead battery. Within seconds, the battery's charge indicator lit up, showing it was fully charged. They can transfer energy directly to our systems, recharging them instantly, Frank explained. And here's the best part. They can also draw harmful radiation away from sensitive equipment, actually protecting technology rather than disrupting it. Sam Peterson's eyes widened. So with these suits, the Navali aren't just harmless. They're beneficial to technological societies. Exactly, Frank said. They could revolutionize energy storage, radiation cleanup, even medical treatments for radiation exposure. Captain Sullivan stood up. Get me a direct line to President Harrison. The Council needs to know about both of these discoveries immediately. Next day, representatives from Earth and the Navali appeared before an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The chamber was tense as Sam Peterson presented their findings. Members of the Council, Sam began, we have discovered the truth about the Navali. They were created as weapons in a war long past, then abandoned by their makers. Their disruption of technology is not malicious. It's simply how they were designed. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Vela representative rose to object, but Sam continued. Furthermore, we have developed technology that not only contains their electromagnetic effects, but harnesses them for beneficial purposes. The Navali are not a threat. They are potentially valuable allies to all technological species. He played Frank's demonstrations, showing the Navali in their new suits charging depleted systems and drawing radiation away from sensitive equipment. The Taurian representative pounded his fist. This changes nothing. They were weapons designed to destroy our civilizations. They were victims, Captain Sullivan countered, abandoned by their creators and then vilified for simply existing. And now they've found a way to turn the very thing that made them feared into a gift. A counselor from a younger species, one who had not been part of the ancient war, stood up. I wish to hear from the Navali themselves. All eyes turned to Terrell, who stepped forward. His containment suit glowed softly as he addressed the council. We did not ask to be created, he said simply. We did not choose our biology. For thousands of years, we only wanted to live in peace. Now, thanks to humans who saw us as people rather than weapons, we have found a way to use our nature to help rather than harm. The council chamber fell silent. Then, one by one, representatives began to ask questions, not with hostility, but with curiosity. How did the containment suits work? Could the energy transfer be used for their systems? What were the limits of the technology? As the session continued, Sam turned to Captain Sullivan. It's not acceptance yet, he said quietly. But it's a start. Sullivan nodded. Sometimes all people need is to hear the truth and to see possibilities instead of threats. Outside the council chamber, Eric Martinez uploaded the final translated Navali records to the Galactic Information Network. The truth was now available for anyone to see. Admiral Grace Martinez watched from the bridge of the EDF Defender as 6 more Council warships joined the growing fleet surrounding Earth. In the week since the emergency council session, the situation had grown increasingly tense. Despite the revelations about Navali history and the promising containment technology, several powerful Council species remained adamant. The Navali must be removed from Earth space. Another Vela battlecruiser arriving, Admiral, her tactical officer reported. That brings the total to 27 hostile vessels. Grace nodded calmly, though inside she felt a growing unease. Earth's defensive fleet was substantial, but it could not match the combined might of the Council forces. She opened a secure channel to Earth Command. This is Admiral Martinez, The Council fleet continues to grow. Request updated orders. The face of General Ward appeared on screen. Hold position, Admiral. The President is in final negotiations with Council leadership. We're hoping this can still be resolved diplomatically. And, if it can't? Grace asked. The General's expression hardened. Then we implement Operation Sanctuary. The details are being transmitted to your secure terminal now. Grace reviewed the classified operation with growing surprise. It was bold, perhaps reckless, but it might just work. She began quietly issuing orders to prepare her fleet. On Horizon Station, Sam Peterson paced the conference room. Across from him sat the three original Council representatives, the Vela, Tarian, and Meridian diplomats. Their postures were rigid, unyielding. The Council's position is final, the Vela announced. You have 48 hours to return the Novali to their vessel and send them beyond Council space. This generous extension comes despite your provocative actions in releasing classified historical records. Sam tried to keep his voice level. Those records revealed the truth about a species that has been unjustly persecuted for millennia. Surely that merits reconsideration of your position. The Tarian made a dismissive gesture. Ancient history is irrelevant. The fact remains that the Novali are incompatible with technological civilization. Your containment suits are an untested, temporary solution at best. They're working perfectly, Sam insisted. Frank Winters and his team have equipped over 200 Novali with the new suits. There have been 0 technological disruptions. 48 hours, the Meridian repeated. After that, we will take action to remove the threat ourselves. As the Council representatives left, President Harrison connected via secure channel. She had aged visibly in recent weeks, the strain of the crisis etched on her face. They're not backing down, Sam reported. Neither are we, Harrison replied firmly. The Novali deserve a chance at a peaceful existence. We cannot abandon them now. The Council fleet is growing by the hour, Sam warned. We can't win a direct confrontation. A slight smile appeared on Harrison's tired face. Who said anything about a direct confrontation? Operation Sanctuary is nearly ready. I need you to brief the Novali leadership immediately. Meanwhile, in his laboratory, Frank Winters was working frantically with a team of engineers. Around all them dozens of Novalian containment suits assisted with the construction of strange devices. Power coupling stable, Frank announced, checking readings on a monitor. Terrell, how's the energy modulation looking? The Novali adjusted settings on a control panel. Pattern is consistent. The network should hold under full load. Nancy Wright entered the lab, stopping in surprise at the sight of the devices being assembled. Frank, what is all this? The next phase of containment technology, he explained without looking up from his work. We've moved beyond simply controlling the Novali's electromagnetic field. Now we're networking their energy. Nancy moved closer, examining the intricate devices. You're creating some kind of power grid? More like a shield, Frank said. The Novali can link their energy fields together, creating a much larger controlled field. Theoretically, it could protect an entire ship, or even a small colony, from external electromagnetic interference. Or weapons fire, Nancy asked, suddenly understanding. Frank nodded. That's the idea. The President asked for options. This is what I came up with. In Earth's northern hemisphere, the small town of New Haven had been quietly evacuated. Military personnel and transport ships filled the streets. Inside the town hall, Captain Sullivan briefed a group of officers. Operation Sanctuary has 3 phases, he explained, pointing to a holographic display. First, evacuation of all New Haven residents, already complete. Second, relocation of Novali refugees from Horizon Station to this secured area, currently 60% complete. Third, activation of the SHIELD network and announcement of the New Haven Sanctuary. An officer raised her hand. Sir, what happens when the Council responds with force? Sullivan's expression was grim. That's where Admiral Martinez and the fleet come in. They'll buy us the time we need to fully establish the SHIELD. Back on Horizon Station, Olivia Clark, the communications specialist who had first helped translate the Novali language, was broadcasting a message throughout council space. Her voice was calm but resolute as she revealed the truth about the Novali, history and the progress of the containment technology. The people of Earth ask the citizens of all council worlds, is this justice? To punish an entire species for how they were created? To deny them the right to exist because of ancient fears and prejudices? Across countless worlds, beings of all species watched her broadcast. On some planets, protests began forming outside government buildings. The truth about the Novali was spreading, causing many to question the Council's position. As the 48-hour deadline approached, President Harrison addressed the Galactic Council one final time from the White House. Distinguished representatives, I speak to you today not as the leader of Earth, but as a voice for justice and compassion. Since learning the truth about the Novali, many of your own citizens have called for a reconsideration of your position. I implore you to listen to them, the Vela representative interrupted. Your time is expired, President Harrison. Where are the Novali? Harrison straightened her shoulders. They are where they deserve to be, under the protection of those who see them as people, not weapons or parasites. Earth has established the New Haven Sanctuary, a settlement where the Novali will live and work alongside human volunteers. Outrage erupted among many council members. The Tarian leader's voice boomed through the chamber. This is defiance of a direct council order. You leave us no choice but to take action. Before you do, Harrison cautioned, you should know that the New Haven Sanctuary is now protected by a network of linked containment fields, powered by the Novali themselves. Any aggressive action against them will be considered an attack on Earth and her allies. On the view screen behind her, images appeared of the New Haven settlement. Shimmering dome of energy covered the entire area. Outside the dome, Earth's defensive fleet had taken position. The choice before you is simple, Harrison concluded. Continue this path of aggression based on ancient hatred, or open a new chapter of understanding and cooperation. Earth stands ready for either outcome. As her transmission ended, Admiral Grace Martinez received an urgent message. Council warships were powering up their weapons systems. The ultimate test of humanity's resolve to protect the rejected Novali was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the standoff at New Haven. Dr. Joe Parker stood at the window of the lunar colony's medical center, watching Earth rise over the rocky landscape. The blue-green planet seemed peaceful from this distance, giving no hint of how close it had come to interstellar war. Joe turned away from the view and continued his rounds. The medical center was busy today. 3 new Novali families had arrived from Earth for their adaptation training. The lunar colony had become the primary transition point for Novali integration into human society. Dr. Parker, the new arrivals are ready for their assessments, a nurse informed him. Thank you, Diane. I'll be right there. In the examination room, Joe greeted the Novali families. Their containment suits were the latest model, barely visible except for a faint shimmer over their iridescent skin. The technology had advanced rapidly since Frank Winter's original design. Welcome to Luna Colony, Joe said warmly. I'm Dr. Parker. I'll be overseeing your medical adaptation process. The tallest Novali stepped forward. I am Calum. We are grateful for this opportunity. My family has studied human medical practices extensively, Joe smiled. The integration program had been a remarkable success. What began as a desperate measure to protect refugees had evolved into something much more significant, a genuine cultural exchange. After completing the examinations, Joe returned to his office to update his research files. His work on Novali biology had led to unexpected breakthroughs. He pulled up brain scans from recent tests comparing human and Novali neural patterns. Fascinating, he murmured. The Novali ability to absorb and redirect electromagnetic energy extended to their neural pathways. When properly focused through the containment technology, this ability could be used to accelerate healing in damaged human tissue. Already, hospitals across Earth were reporting success using Novali-assisted treatments for radiation injuries, certain cancers, and even some neurological conditions. What had once been feared as a weapon had become a gift to human medical science. Joe's communication panel chimed. The face of Linda Howard, Earth's new representative to the Galactic Council appeared on screen. "Dr. Parker, do you have a moment? I'd like your input on the revised sanctuary protocols before I present them to the Council tomorrow." "Of course, Representative Howard. What do you need?" Linda shared her screen showing a complex document. "These are the formal procedures for handling refugee crises across the galaxy. 7 previously hostile species have indicated they'll vote in favor, but I want to ensure the medical integration sections are accurate." Joe reviewed the document carefully. The sanctuary protocols had grown from Earth's experience with the Novali, establishing clear guidelines for assessing refugee needs, developing appropriate integration technologies, and protecting vulnerable species from prejudice or exploitation. "The medical sections look solid," Joe confirmed, "though I'd suggest adding our latest findings on biological compatibility assessments. It's helping us match Novali healers with specific human medical conditions." "Excellent idea. I'll make that addition before tomorrow's session." After the call ended, Joe headed to the colony's central dome for the weekly community gathering. The large circular space was filled with humans and Novali, sharing meals and conversation. Children from both species played together in the center, the human kids fascinated by the changing colors of their Novali friends' skin. In one corner, Captain Peter Sullivan, now appointed as the first human Novali Joint Colony Administrator, was speaking with a group of visitors from Earth. Joe joined them, recognizing several of the key people from the original crisis: Nancy Wright, Frank Winters, and Sam Peterson. "Joe, good to see you," Sullivan greeted him. "I was just telling our guests about the colony's expansion plans." Nancy smiled warmly at Joe. "Your medical research has been remarkable. The cancer treatment protocols you developed with Novali assistants are being implemented in hospitals worldwide." "It's been a collaborative effort," Joe replied modestly. "The Novali understanding of electromagnetic fields at the cellular level has revolutionized our approach to treatment." Frank Winters nodded. "And to think 6 months ago the Council was ready to go to war over this." "Speaking of which," Sam Peterson interjected, "did you all hear what happened at the Council session last week? The Vela representative actually apologized for their species' role in perpetuating misinformation about the Novali." Sullivan raised his eyebrows. "Now that's progress I didn't expect to see in my lifetime." The group fell silent as an elderly Novali approached. It was Siren, one of the oldest survivors and now a respected historian who taught at both the Lunar Colony and Earth universities. The humans respectfully made room for him in their circle. "I hope I am not interrupting," Siren said, his voice carrying the musical quality characteristic of Elder Novali. "Not at all," Sullivan assured him. "We were just discussing the changes of the past 6 months." Siren's skin shifted to a warm golden hue. Happiness, the humans had learned. "I was speaking with the children earlier, sharing stories of our people. One of your human children asked me if we had always known we would find sanctuary with humans." "What did you tell them?" Nancy asked. "I shared with them an ancient prophecy from our world," Siren replied. "When all others turn away, you will find sanctuary with those who see not with fear, but with curiosity and compassion." The group was quiet for a moment, taking in the profound coincidence, or perhaps it wasn't coincidence at all. "Do you think your ancestors somehow knew about humans?" Joe asked. Siren's 4 eyes crinkled in what the humans now recognized as a smile. "Perhaps. Or perhaps they simply understood that somewhere in this vast universe, there must exist a species wise enough to look beyond the surface." As the gathering continued, Joe watched the interaction between humans and Novali with a sense of wonder. Children played, scientists exchanged ideas, artists collaborated on projects that blended both cultures' aesthetics. The containment technology had made this possible, but it was human compassion that had made it reality. Outside the dome on the lunar surface, construction teams were expanding the colony. The joint human-Novali settlement was growing rapidly, becoming a symbol of what was possible when fear was replaced with understanding. In orbit above them, ships arrived and departed, not just Earth vessels now, but also those from 7 Council, species who had voted to establish formal relations with the Novali. Trade agreements were being negotiated, cultural exchanges planned. Back in the gathering, Sullivan raised a glass. To new beginnings, he said. Everyone joined the toast, humans and Novali together. Later that evening, as the Earth set behind the lunar horizon, Joe Parker made one final entry in his personal journal. Today marks 6 months since humanity chose to stand with those everyone else rejected. In doing so, we didn't just save the Novali. We discovered the best in ourselves. Every civilization turned them away until humanity stepped up to safeguard them. And in protecting them, we may have found the key to a more compassionate galaxy. Closed the journal and looked out at the stars, wondering what other refugees might be out there, waiting for someone to see them not as threats, but as friends they hadn't yet met.